So let's go ahead, dive in, and start talking about tracking. Now, here's the thing. In this particular case study, the tracking section isn't really going to involve a whole lot of detail for a few reasons. First of all, there are not a lot of instruments. There are not a lot of tracks. So the arrangement is very stripped down. We're talking mainly electric piano and soprano sax. And there aren't a lot of crazy overdubs going on. There's a few reasons for that. First of all, back in the day, there was this thought that all production could go down to one Yamaha DX7 and you could just record a lead voice over that. That, of course, was short-lived. However, that pretty much defined the sound of that decade when it came to quasi-jazz ballads and such. Another thing, too, is that those sounds are fairly easy to emulate. So as far as miking up an instrument or having some sort of crazy signal chain to achieve that sound, that is really not that necessary. So so this is not going to take a lot of time to go over when it comes down to the backing instruments. And the very interesting stuff is mainly going to happen when we talk about the remote work environment and the details that go in behind that. So let's go ahead and talk about percussion, what we laid down for that. When it came to this particular arrangement, drums are not that big of a part. Basically what we were dealing with are just very, very light loops to keep time. And that's it. And the reason we want to keep time as opposed to doing some sort of rubato is, again, we want this to be easily rearrangeable. So we don't want to have like fermatas and stuff like that happening and cause a headache for the editor. So it'll be very, very basic percussion loops. We have a tambourine that we added later on. And again, that tambourine was very bright. Very light and very saturated with reverb, which is very, very conducive to this genre. So let's go ahead and hop over to the project and show you where that was laid down. It was laid down on these three tracks right here. The tambourine track is actually a little bit further down in the mix right here, but again, we are going to talk about that later. Now, when I talk about stripped down, I'm really talking stripped down. Let me just turn these up a little bit. That's it. There's a Wiro, some congas. It sounds so bad. and a bass drum to kind of lay down some stuff for the bass. That bass drum was there just as a possibility, but it was ended up muted. In fact, I don't even know why the track is still here. So really, this is it right there. A Wiro and a conga loop. So again, there was nothing recorded. These are just loops grabbed from the Jam Pack library. That's it. There's no specific special mixing that went on other than the Wiro, which was brightened up and had the bass taken down on it. We will go into the details of why we did that. I'll just give you a hint. It has to do with the fact that this is being played in background music. We want those highs to cut through. So that was it for the drums. There was really, really nothing special going on. So let's go ahead and move on to the electric piano. The electric piano is playing a very, very important role because it's one of the main instruments that is defining that 1980s production sound. The electric piano in this case is meant to imitate a Yamaha DX7. If you're not familiar with the Yamaha DX7, just go pick a random ballad from the 80s and that electric piano sound is the sound. Think Al Jarreau, After All. Think quasi-jazz ballads by Kenny G. And that sound is most likely a DX7. Now, just because GarageBand doesn't ship with a DX7 emulator doesn't mean that we can't get close by chorusing an electric piano and brightening it up with some EQ and then saturating it with reverb. This is pretty much what we would get if we did that. Fairly close. Now, another option too would be to go get an audio unit instrument. Not going to go into too much detail about how to do this. We have a separate section devoted to that. However, just to give you an idea of what you can do and how easy it is to do it, you can install something like the Native Instruments FM8 audio unit instrument. Once you install third-party instruments, they will show up under the sound generators under audio unit modules. In our case, we are using the FM8. When you click on that, look at this. You have a ton of different instruments that you can use. In our case, we want something from their FM7 Legacy preset that goes down to that FM Piano preset, which is a universal digital audio geekery for DX7. So if we go through those settings, use their another electric piano preset, this is what we'll get. Yikes. That is very, very close to the DX7, if not dead on. That is the type of sound we were going for. Now, I'm going to leave these two options open and let you listen. The final product ended up going with the chorus piano because the soprano sax was playing the biggest role out of everything, didn't want too much competing with it. However, you could totally use something like this. It's a great value. Opens up a ton of different options. Anyhow, let's go back to the chorus electric piano and just listen to a little bit of what we laid down, talk a little bit about the preset sound, and then move on to other instruments. All right, so basically we just did some simple comping. Had some chords on top with those anticipations, and also had a bass line. That bass line is fairly nice to have in this type of music, just in case the editor wants to really put it out front, maybe have a reprise or something like that at the end with the music full force. You'll be able to still have a little bit of bass in there, and on this preset, that bass is pretty clear if you're hearing this on bigger headphones. All right, so again, we just used the chorus electric piano preset that exists. Let me let you look at what those settings look like. We have it going into a compressor, nothing special going on here, just to help even out the sound. The chorus, rather light chorus, not crazy intensity, no sort of crazy speed going on. And then we have an EQ that is bringing out some brightness. We tweaked it just a little bit on our end by bringing out the brightness even more by taking that top shelf and bringing it down to probably about 4K or so. So anyhow, that is the chorus piano. Again, nothing too crazy going on there. So at this point, we already have our basic backing tracks that are almost ready to send off to the soprano sax player.